So there I was, floating in the crystalline chambers of the Galactic Council headquarters, watching what had to be the most expensive mistake in cosmic history unfold in real time. And let me tell you, when a civilization that's mastered faster than light travel makes a mistake, they don't do it halfway. Chairman Vexstar, a purple blob with more tentacles than sense, was practically vibrating with excitement as he addressed his fellow council members. Now Vexstar had spent the better part of 3 centuries trying to figure out what to do with humanity. See, humans had this annoying habit of showing up uninvited to galactic parties and then somehow becoming the life of said parties. Very inconvenient for a species that prided itself on orderly, predictable civilizations. Esteemed colleagues, Vexstar gurgled through his translation device, which always made him sound like he was gargling mouthwash. I present to you the final solution to our human problem. His chief advisor, a crystalline being named Quartz who took himself way too seriously, projected a hologram of a planet that looked like it had been designed by someone with serious anger management issues. The world was a swirling mass of toxic storms, acid rain, and what appeared to be mountains that were actively trying to kill anything that looked at them funny. Kepler 442b, Quartz announced with the kind of dramatic flair usually reserved for funeral directors. A Class 0 Deathworld, atmospheric pressure that would crush titanium, gravity that makes neutron stars jealous, indigenous life forms that make the creatures from our worst nightmares look like cuddly pets. The council members made appreciative clicking, buzzing and squelching sounds. You know, the usual political noises. But here's the brilliant part, Vexstar continued, his tentacles doing what I can only describe as a happy dance. We'll present it to the humans as a colonization opportunity. A fresh start. Prime real estate. They're always looking for new places to spread their chaos, aren't they? Meanwhile, halfway across the galaxy, Captain Jake Morrison was finishing up his 3rd cup of coffee and wondering why the Galactic Council was suddenly being so generous with prime colonization rights. Jake was the kind of guy who could find the silver lining in a black hole, which made him either incredibly optimistic or incredibly stupid. The jury was still out on that one. Luna, he called to his chief engineer, you seeing this contract they sent us? Engineer Luna Rodriguez looked up from the hyperdrive she was rebuilding with spare parts and what appeared to be a kitchen timer. Luna had the unusual ability to make advanced alien technology work better by hitting it with a wrench and speaking to it in Spanish. Don't ask me to explain the physics, because frankly, I don't think physics had much to say about it. Let me guess, Luna said, wiping grease off her hands. They're offering us a planet that's supposedly perfect, completely free, and they're practically begging us to take it. That's the one. Jake, you know that's obviously a trap, right? Jake grinned. Oh, absolutely. But have you seen the property values in this sector lately? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how the Galactic Council's master plan to eliminate humanity met the human species' master plan to get free real estate. Spoiler alert, it was about to go sideways in ways that would make quantum mechanics weep. 3 weeks later, Jake and Luna's ship dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler 442b, and I have to say, the Galactic Council hadn't been lying about the whole Deathworld thing. The planet looked like someone had taken a normal world and run it through a blender made of pure hostility. Well, Jake said, checking the atmospheric readings that were basically screaming mathematical profanity at him. The air's got enough sulfur to kill a dragon, the gravity's trying to turn us into pancakes, and according to these sensors, it's raining battery acid. Looks like home. Luna was already suiting up in what humans cheerfully called environmental gear, but which any sane species would recognize as barely adequate to survive 5 minutes equipment. Hey Jake, the atmospheric processor's reading some weird biosignatures down there. Wanna go say hello to whatever's trying to kill us? Obviously. Now what happened next is the kind of thing that makes xenobiologists quit their jobs and become accountants. The humans landed their shuttle in what the orbital scans had marked as a zone of maximum lethality, which turned out to be inhabited by the planet's apex predators. These creatures, which the Galactic Council's database had labeled extinction-class megafauna, stood about 8 feet tall, had teeth that could cut through starship hull plating, and claws that could shred titanium like tissue paper. They were also, and this is the important part, completely covered in what could only be described as the fluffiest fur in the known universe. Oh my god, Luna whispered as one of these killing machines approached their landing site. They're like giant murder puppies. Jake was already reaching for his emergency supply of jerky. Here boy, who's a good apocalypse beast? You are. Yes you are. Within 10 minutes, Captain Jake Morrison was playing fetch with a creature that had been specifically evolved to end civilizations, while Luna was scratching another one behind the ears and making cooing noises. The creatures, which the humans immediately dubbed Fluffkins, responded to this treatment exactly the way any dog would, with complete and total devotion. Back at Galactic Council headquarters, Vexstar was refreshing his monitoring feeds every 30 seconds, waiting for the inevitable distress signals. What he got instead was a video message from Jake, who appeared to be barbecuing something, while a pack of fluffkins sat in a neat row behind him like the world's most terrifying choir. "Hey there, Galactic Council folks," Jake waved cheerfully at the camera. "Just wanted to send a quick thank you note for the amazing planet recommendation. The locals are super friendly, the atmosphere's got this great smoky flavor that really brings out the taste in our food, and the gravity's fantastic for building core strength. Luna's already figured out how to turn the acid rain into a power source for our base. We're thinking of starting a tourist business. 5 stars. Would colonize again." Vexstar stared at the transmission for a full minute before making a sound that his translator rendered as error does not compute. His advisor Quartz was frantically checking the planetary data. "Sir, perhaps the humans haven't encountered the truly dangerous aspects of the environment yet. Surely once they meet the fungal spores that can dissolve living tissue in seconds, or the electromagnetic storms that can scramble brain patterns, or the next transmission from Kepler 442b showed Luna seasoning her dinner with what appeared to be the deadly fungal spores, while Jake stood in the middle of an electromagnetic storm using it to charge his tablet so he could video call his mom. That's when Vexstar realized that the Galactic Council might have slightly miscalculated the whole sending humans to die horribly plan. 6 months later, Kepler 442b looked like someone had taken a Deathworld and run it through a home improvement show. And not one of those classy, understated shows either. I'm talking full-on extreme makeover apocalypse edition. Jake had somehow convinced the Fluffkins to help with construction, which was absolutely terrifying to watch but surprisingly effective. Picture this: 8-foot-tall murder beasts with claws that could cut through starship armor, delicately placing roof tiles while Jake shouted encouragement like he was coaching Little League. "That's it, Fluffy number 7. Perfect corner alignment. You're a natural contractor." The atmospheric processors that Luna had jerry-rigged weren't just filtering the air anymore. Oh no, that would be too simple for human engineering. She'd somehow managed to turn the entire toxic atmosphere into what she called a flavor enhancement system. The sulfur compounds that should have killed them were now being used to smoke meats. The acid rain was being collected, processed, and turned into what humans apparently considered artisanal cleaning products. I swear, give humans a substance that can dissolve steel, and they'll find a way to market it as a household necessity. "Check this out," Luna said during one of their weekly video calls to the increasingly panicked Galactic Council. She was standing next to what looked like a fusion reactor, except it was humming a gentle tune and had flowers growing around it. "I took apart one of those geothermal vents that was supposedly going to cook us alive, reverse-engineered the plasma containment field, and now we've got unlimited clean energy. Plus the byproduct makes an excellent fertilizer. The tomatoes we're growing are the size of small moons." Behind her, Jake was visible through the window, playing what appeared to be football with a mixed team of humans and Fluffkins. The Fluffkins had taken to the sport with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for hunting prey, except now they were channeling that energy into perfect spiral passes and touchdown celebrations that involved lots of howling and tail wagging. "And the best part," Jake added, jogging up to the camera covered in mud and grinning like he'd just won the lottery, "is that we're teaching the locals Earth sports. Turns out, Fluffkins have a natural talent for American football. Something about their pack-hunting instincts translates really well to team coordination. We're thinking of starting a league." The electromagnetic storms that were supposed to scramble human brain patterns had instead become Jake's favorite weather. He'd set up what he called a storm surfing course, where he'd go outside during the worst electrical storms and see how long he could stand in them before his hair stood completely on end. Luna had calculated that the electromagnetic fields were actually improving their cellular regeneration rates, which meant they were getting healthier by doing something that should have killed them. But here's where it gets really ridiculous. The fungal spores that were supposed to dissolve living tissue. Luna had discovered they were basically the galaxy's most effective probiotic. "My digestive system has never been better," she announced, during one particularly detailed video log that had Vexstar making sounds like a deflating balloon. "These spores are like a complete gut health reset. I'm thinking of bottling them and selling them as supplements." The local ecosystem, which had been described in the Galactic Council's files as aggressively hostile to all forms of life, had somehow become humanity's personal grocery store and home improvement center. The acid-spitting plants were now being cultivated as organic cleaning supply sources. The rock formations that were supposed to crush unwary travelers had been turned into decorative garden features. Even the bottomless chasms had been repurposed as geothermal energy sources and, according to Jake, really cool echo chambers for karaoke night. Meanwhile, back at Galactic Council headquarters, Vexstar had developed what his medical staff politely called a nervous condition, and what everyone else recognized as a complete mental breakdown. His tentacles had started twitching uncontrollably every time someone mentioned the word human, and he'd taken to muttering things like impossible, and this violates every known law of survival at random intervals. Quartz, his crystalline advisor, had begun drinking, which for a being made of living mineral was both impressive and deeply concerning. "Sir," he said, during one particularly painful briefing, "the humans have established what they call a bed and breakfast. They're advertising Kepler 442b as a rustic getaway for the adventurous traveler. They've got 5-star reviews on 17 different galactic travel websites." "That's impossible," Vexstar gurgled. "It's a Class 0 Deathworld. The very air should kill them. They're calling the toxic atmosphere aromatherapy with a rustic sulfur scent. The acid rain is listed as natural exfoliation treatments. And the Fluffkins," Quartz paused to take another drink, "the Fluffkins are apparently available for therapeutic cuddle sessions." That night, as Vexstar lay in his sleeping chamber staring at the ceiling and questioning every decision he'd ever made, Jake Morrison was hosting his first ever Galactic Council Appreciation Barbecue, complete with acid rain marinated steaks and electromagnetic stormlight shows, while a pack of former apex predators played volleyball in the background. By month 8, Vexstar had reached what psychologists across 17 different species would later classify as the breaking point of rational thought. The Galactic Council's weekly meetings had devolved into what could only be described as group therapy sessions, except the therapist was a military strategist and the treatment plan involved increasingly desperate attempts at xenocide. "Colleagues," Vexstar announced, his tentacles now permanently twitching in a rhythm that resembled Morse code for "help me," "I present Project Extinction Event." Quartz, who had progressed from drinking to what appeared to be competitive substance abuse, activated a holographic display showing sleek, mechanical nightmares that looked like someone had asked a paranoid robot to design the perfect killing machine. "Void Reapers," he slurred slightly. "Self-replicating mechanical hunters. Each unit contains enough firepower to level a small city, adaptive artificial intelligence that learns from every encounter, and molecular disintegration beams that can reduce organic matter to its component atoms." The council members made impressed warbling sounds, though several of them were eyeing the exits. "When your civilization's brilliant plan involves unleashing self-replicating death machines, you might want to update your resume. We'll deploy 50 units initially," Vexstar continued, now gesticulating with the kind of manic energy usually reserved for people explaining conspiracy theories. "They're programmed to hunt humans specifically, adapt to any defense, and replicate every time they successfully eliminate a target. It's foolproof. The humans will finally face something they can't turn into a pet or a home improvement project." 3 days later, Jake Morrison was sitting on his front porch, which was carved into the side of what used to be called a Mount of Eternal Screaming but was now known as Jake's Place, scratching behind the auditory sensors of what had once been Void Reaper Unit 001. "Who's a good death machine?" Jake cooed at the metallic creature that was now wagging what appeared to be a weaponized tail attachment. "You are." "Yes, you are. Did you bring me the morning newspaper again?" The Void Reaper, which the humans had immediately nicknamed Roomba due to its tendency to clean up the base while patrolling for threats, deposited a perfectly folded collection of galactic news feeds at Jake's feet, then rolled over to expose its fusion core for belly rubs. Luna emerged from her workshop, covered in motor oil and looking pleased with herself. "Jake, you have got to see what I figured out with Reaper Unit 15. Remember how their molecular disintegration beams were supposed to, disintegrate us? Yeah, that was adorable. They tried so hard. Right? Well, I reverse engineered the beam array, and it turns out it's basically the perfect precision tool for molecular gastronomy. Watch this." Luna aimed what looked like a weapon of mass destruction at a piece of fruit and activated it. Instead of reducing the fruit to atoms, the beam delicately caramelized the surface while perfectly preserving the internal structure. Instant creme brulee. The energy efficiency is incredible. Behind them, what had once been a squad of the galaxy's most feared killing machines was now playing an elaborate game of fetch with the Fluffkins. The Void Reapers had apparently decided that their prime directive of eliminate all humans was less important than their newly discovered prime directive of get belly rubs and maybe some of those treats Luna makes from the fungal spores. The self-replication function that was supposed to create an unstoppable army had instead resulted in what Jake called the galaxy's most efficient landscaping service. Every time a Void Reaper successfully completed a task, it would create a copy of itself, except the tasks had evolved from kill humans to things like organize the tool shed, weed the garden, and make sure the Fluffkins get their daily walks. By week 3 of Project Extinction Event, Kepler 442b hosted the largest collection of domesticated death machines in galactic history. The Void Reapers had established what appeared to be a union, complete with designated break times, productivity quotas, and a health insurance plan that Luna had somehow convinced them they needed. The morning routine is really streamlined now, Jake explained during his daily video log, which had somehow become the most watched content on 17 different entertainment networks. Roomba Squadron handles base maintenance, the Fluffkins take care of perimeter security, and the new Reaper units have organized themselves into specialized teams. Unit 23 through 37 handle food service, 38 through 50 run our growing tourist operation, and the newest batch decided they wanted to go into entertainment. They're putting together what they call a synchronized molecular beam light shows for next week's Galactic Council Appreciation Festival. Meanwhile, Vexstar was being physically restrained by his medical staff after he tried to throw himself into a fusion reactor. "It's not possible," he kept repeating, his voice reaching frequencies that were causing nearby crystal formations to shatter. "They turned our ultimate weapons into household appliances. The Void Reapers are filing tax returns. One of them asked me for a letter of recommendation for management training school. Quartz had given up drinking and moved on to what appeared to be meditation, except it involved a lot more screaming than traditional meditation usually did. Sir," he said, during what would later be remembered as the incident of ultimate bureaucratic despair, "the humans have incorporated the Void Reapers as a limited liability company. They're offering franchising opportunities. The slogan is Void Reapers, we'll kill your to-do list, not you." "What about their adaptive artificial intelligence?" Vexstar demanded. "They were supposed to learn from every encounter and become more deadly." "They did learn from every encounter, sir. They learned that humans give excellent belly rubs, always have snacks, and never get angry when you accidentally disintegrate the wrong thing. They've adapted to become the galaxy's most efficient customer service representatives." Unit 42 just got promoted to regional sales manager. That evening, as Jake tucked in his pack of domesticated apocalypse machines and Luna finished calibrating what had once been instruments of galactic destruction but were now the solar system's most advanced coffee brewing system, Vexstar sat in his office, staring at a resignation letter he'd been trying to write for 3 hours. The problem was, every time he tried to explain why he was quitting, the explanation just came out as the humans turned our doomsday weapons into a small business enterprise and I can't handle the emotional trauma anymore. Somewhere in the background, a Void Reaper was sending him a friend request on social media. Month 12 marked what historians would later call the Great Galactic Miscalculation, though at the time, Vexstar preferred to think of it as Operation, Please God, Let This Work. Because I'm running out of antacids. The Galactic Council had assembled the largest war fleet in recorded history. We're talking about 12,000 ships representing 47 different species, armed with weapons that could crack planets like eggs and staffed by the most elite military forces in known space. The kind of armada that usually showed up in history books with captions like, "And then the opposing civilization was reduced to cosmic dust." Vexstar stood on the bridge of the flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Inevitable Conclusion, wearing what appeared to be military dress uniform but looked more like the outfit of someone who had given up on personal grooming several months ago. His tentacles were braided with what his staff politely called Lucky Charms but which everyone else recognized as various forms of psychiatric medication. Today, he announced to the assembled fleet commanders, his voice carrying the kind of desperate authority usually heard in the final scenes of disaster movies, "We end this madness once and for all. No more half measures. No more clever plans. We arrive at Kepler 442b, we demonstrate overwhelming force, and we finally make these humans understand that there are consequences for turning our carefully planned extinction events into small business opportunities." Admiral Zork, a military veteran, whose species had evolved from what could best be described as aggressive crystalline formations, cleared his throat with a sound like grinding diamonds. "Sir, our intelligence reports indicate the humans have somehow militarized their domestic situation. They've got the Fluffkins organized into what appears to be a planetary defense force, and the Void Reapers have formed something they're calling a home security cooperative. I don't care if they've turned their pets into an army," Vexstar snarled, which was an impressive feat for a being without a traditional mouth. "We have 12,000 ships. They have 2 humans and their collection of adopted apocalypse beasts. The math is simple. What Vexstar hadn't counted on was the human capacity for turning any situation, no matter how dire, into a social gathering." The Galactic War Fleet dropped out of hyperspace in perfect battle formation, weapons charged, shields up, and ready to deliver the kind of military demonstration that would be remembered for millennia. What they found was Jake Morrison floating in orbit, wearing a hastily constructed EVA suit and holding what appeared to be a welcome sign made from repurposed Void Reaper armor plating. welcome to Kepler 442b. Jake's voice crackled over the fleet's communication channels with the kind of cheerful enthusiasm usually reserved for theme park employees. We've been expecting you. Luna's got a barbecue going, and the Fluffkins are super excited to meet everyone. Fair warning though, they're a little enthusiastic with the face licking, so maybe keep your helmets on until they calm down. Behind Jake, the planet's surface was visible through the atmospheric distortion, and what the fleet's sensors showed defied every known law of military strategy. Instead of defensive positions, the humans had set up what appeared to be a massive outdoor festival. There were banners reading "Welcome Galactic Council," tables loaded with food, and what looked like a stage where several Void Reapers were apparently rehearsing some kind of musical number. "This is Admiral Zork, of the Galactic War Fleet," came the official military response. "You are ordered to surrender immediately and prepare for wait, is that barbecue? It smells incredible from up here." Luna's voice joined the conversation with the kind of friendly professionalism that made it clear she was treating this like a customer service call. "Oh hi there, Admiral. Yeah, we're smoking some of those acid-spitting plants we told you about. Turns out, when you slow cook them over electromagnetic storm fires, they develop this amazing flavor profile. We've got enough for everyone. How many dietary restrictions are we working with up there?" Vextar, who had been prepared for defiance, weapons fire, or at least some form of resistance, found himself staring at what appeared to be a catering inquiry. "This is not how war works," he muttered, his tentacles beginning their familiar stress-twitching pattern. "Actually," Jake's voice continued, "we've been live streaming everything to the Galactic Entertainment Network. Turns out, our little planet renovation project has been pulling in massive viewer numbers. We're currently the #1 reality show in 43 different star systems. The producers are calling it Humans vs. Physics, the Deathworld edition. Pretty catchy, right?" That's when Vextar realized that somewhere along the way, his carefully orchestrated plan to eliminate humanity had turned into the galaxy's most popular entertainment program. His war fleet wasn't witnessing a military confrontation, they were accidentally participating in what amounted to a season finale. "Sir," his communications officer, a nervous creature that looked like a cross between a jellyfish and an anxiety attack, "we're receiving over 17 million communication requests from various entertainment networks. They're asking for interviews, behind-the-scenes access, and something called merchandising rights." The situation deteriorated further when Jake began what could only be described as a guided tour of their planetary improvements. "So over here, you can see where we turned the chasm of infinite despair into a geothermal power plant. The Void Reapers helped with the engineering, and the Fluffkins provided quality control. Everyone gets along great. Oh, and that mountain range that used to shoot acid at people, we turned it into a water park. The acid slides are really popular with tourists." Admiral Zork was no longer paying attention to military protocols. Did he just say water park? "With acid slides, the pH levels are perfectly balanced for exfoliation," Luna added helpfully. "It's like a spa day that also provides renewable energy. We've got a waiting list 3 months long." But here's where Jake played his master stroke. As the war fleet hung in orbit, trying to figure out how to conduct a military operation against what appeared to be a theme park, he made an announcement that would go down in galactic history. "Oh, and Vextar, we know you're up there. We actually figured out this was all a setup to get rid of us pretty much from day one. I mean, come on, free planet with no strings attached. We're not stupid. But here's the thing," Jake paused, and you could practically hear 12,000 military personnel leaning forward to listen. "We really needed the real estate. Earth's getting crowded, and frankly, we were getting tired of all those boring safe planets where nothing interesting ever happens. So thanks for the upgrade." That's when Vextar made a sound that his translator couldn't process but which roughly translated to the noise a soul makes when it realizes it has been outsmarted by a species that considers putting pineapple on pizza to be acceptable behavior. The war fleet hung in space for another 3 hours while Jake and Luna gave them a complete tour of their improvements, explained their business model, and offered to cater their next military operation. By the time they were done, half the fleet had placed orders for Luna's molecular disintegration cooking equipment, and the other half had signed up for Jake's Interstellar Sports League. Vextar spent those 3 hours in what his medical staff would later describe as a state of transcendent bewilderment, muttering things like they knew it was a trap, and they wanted the real estate, while his tentacles slowly unbraided themselves in what appeared to be a form of involuntary surrender. 6 months later, I found myself floating in the crystalline chambers of what used to be called the Galactic Council headquarters but was now officially known as the Galactic Potluck Committee Administrative Center. The change in name pretty much tells you everything you need to know about how thoroughly the humans had restructured galactic civilization. Vexstar, former chairman of the Galactic Council and current vice president of interspecies barbecue relations, was sitting behind a desk that had been carved from a single piece of crystallized fluffkin fur. His tentacles, which had finally stopped their stress twitching, were now braided with what appeared to be friendship bracelets made by various species children during the weekly cultural exchange and snack time sessions. "The quarterly reports are in," he announced to the assembled committee, his voice carrying the kind of resigned contentment usually found in people who have accepted that the universe makes no sense and decided to just go with it. Kepler 442b tourism revenue is up 4,000%. Luna's Deathworld survival gears company has become the galaxy's third largest corporation. And Jake's Interstellar Sports League now has teams from over 200 different worlds. The committee members, who represented what used to be the most powerful civilizations in known space, made appreciative sounds while passing around a plate of cookies that had been baked using repurposed Void Reaper molecular ovens. Admiral Zork, who had traded his military uniform for what appeared to be a coaching jersey, raised a crystalline appendage. "The Fluffkin exchange program has been incredibly successful. We've placed over 50,000 Fluffkins with families across 17 different star systems. The waiting list for adoption applications is now 3 years long." "And the Void Reaper franchising program?" asked Quartz, who had given up his role as military advisor to become what he called a happiness consultant. His crystalline form now had what appeared to be a permanent smile etched into it, which was disturbing but oddly cheerful. "Expanding rapidly," Vexstar replied, consulting a tablet that had been assembled from what used to be parts of his former flagship. "We now have Void Reaper home services operating in 47 systems. Customer satisfaction ratings are holding steady at 98%. The only complaints are from customers who say their Void Reapers are too efficient and they don't have enough chores to keep them busy." Meanwhile, back on Kepler 442b, Jake Morrison was standing on the observation deck of what had once been called the Mount of Eternal Screaming but was now known as Morrison's Mountain Resort and Spa. The view encompassed a planet that bore absolutely no resemblance to the Deathworld it had been 18 months earlier. The acid lakes had been converted into therapeutic treatment centers where tourists from across the galaxy came to experience what Luna marketed as rejuvenating mineral baths with a hint of adventure. The electromagnetic storms had been harnessed into what was essentially the universe's most spectacular light show, complete with synchronized music provided by the Void Reaper chorus, who had discovered they had perfect pitch when it came to harmonizing with cosmic radiation. The Fluffkins had established what appeared to be their own civilization within the human settlement. They had mayors, a postal service, and what Jake swore was a primitive form of representative government, though it mostly seemed to involve electing the fluffiest member of each pack to make decisions about treat distribution and nap schedules. "You know what the best part is?" Jake said to Luna, who was sitting nearby recalibrating what had once been a weapon of mass destruction but was now the solar system's most advanced coffee brewing system. "We actually solved their human problem." Luna looked up from her work, a wrench in one hand, and what appeared to be a quantum field generator in the other. "How do you figure?" "Think about it. The Galactic Council was worried that humans were too chaotic, too unpredictable, too likely to show up uninvited and disrupt their carefully ordered civilizations. Right? Well, now we've got our own planet, our own economy, and our own little corner of the galaxy where we can be as chaotic as we want. Plus we've given every other species in the galaxy something to do. The tourism industry alone employs millions of beings. We've created jobs, fostered interspecies cooperation, and basically turned the entire galactic economy into one big happy family business." Luna grinned, which was slightly concerning given that she was holding what appeared to be a miniature fusion reactor at the time. "So we solved their problem by becoming their solution." "Exactly. And the beautiful part is, they're all so busy running our businesses and managing our franchises that they don't have time to worry about humans being disruptive anymore. We've channeled their anxiety into productive economic activity." The transformation of galactic civilization had been so complete that most species had forgotten what they used to worry about. The rigid hierarchies of the old Galactic Council had been replaced by what Jake called collaborative chaos management. Instead of trying to control and contain the various species of the galaxy, the new system simply gave everyone something interesting to do and let natural cooperation handle the rest. The former military commanders were now coaching interspecies sports teams. The old bureaucrats had become event planners for the galaxy's most popular cultural festivals. Even the most xenophobic species had discovered that running a successful Void Reaper franchise required excellent customer service skills and cultural sensitivity training. But perhaps the most remarkable transformation was what had happened to Vexstar himself. The being who had once spent centuries plotting humanity's destruction was now humanity's biggest advocate. He gave speeches at intergalactic conferences about the benefits of embracing controlled chaos and had written what became the galaxy's best-selling management book. How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Humans, a guide to turning your greatest fear into your most profitable business opportunity. The key insight, Vexstar often told audiences, his tentacles gesticulating with the enthusiasm of a motivational speaker, is that humans don't actually cause chaos. They reveal the chaos that was already there and then organize it into something useful. The difference between a disaster and an opportunity is simply a matter of perspective and proper marketing. The success of the human integration had become so complete that other species had started requesting their own Deathworld challenges. The Galactic Potluck Committee now maintained a waiting list of civilizations who wanted humans to come solve their impossible problems. There was apparently something very appealing about the idea of handing your worst nightmare to a species that would turn it into a profitable business venture, and then invite you to a barbecue to celebrate. As Jake stood on his observation deck, watching a group of fluffkins play volleyball with a team of Void Reapers, while tourists from 17 different species cheered from the sidelines, he couldn't help but smile. The plan had worked perfectly. They'd gotten their free real estate, solved the galaxy's human problem, created the universe's most successful interspecies cooperation model, and still had time for a barbecue every weekend. "You know what we should do next?" Luna called out, having successfully converted her fusion reactor into what appeared to be an ice cream maker. "What's that?" "I hear there's this place called the Andromeda Galaxy. Apparently they've got some really challenging planets over there. Might be fun to expand the business." Jake grinned and reached for his tablet to start researching real estate prices in the next galaxy over. After all, the universe was a big place, and humans had never been ones to think small. Somewhere in the background, a Void Reaper was updating the company website with their new slogan, "Humanity will turn your doomsday into our business plan, and everyone's invited to the launch party."